I believe that we can only focus on what we can control. And there are things we can't control. We cannot control the economy, let's make it about business. We cannot control if in a sales conversation the person buys. We can't control that. But what can control? We can always control the way that we show up, and we can always control our ability to detach from the outcome. It's important for us to recognize that our clients are not the source of our wealth. They are merely the vessel that is being used to bring us the wealth that has already been earmarked and reserved for us.
Welcome to Reward, the podcast of The Trust. We are the show specifically for women entrepreneurs who want to build businesses into the multi-million-dollar revenues and beyond, but especially because we know the reward is much greater than that. I'm Allie Brown, and I'm excited to introduce you to these diverse female leaders from a variety of industries, women making huge impact and who are unwilling to settle for the status quo. On the web, visit jointhetrust.org to learn more about our modern community for forward-thinking 7- and 8-figure women entrepreneurs. That's jointhetrust.org. See you there. Now, get ready to enjoy this episode's powerful conversation. Darnyelle, how are you?
I'm so good. I'm excited to be here. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, it's wild because since I've gotten to know you, I've not really gotten to know you. I haven't had a lot of time to talk with you. And so, one of the reasons I love doing these interviews also is just selfishly like really getting to know everyone's stories and
Mhm.
their missions and like what is that through line that's connecting their work. And I know we're going to dive into that. And, first thing I just want to ask, how is the book launch coming?
The book is doing really well. We haven't quite hit, at the time of this recording, 30 days yet, and we've sold more than 5,000 copies. So I'm very excited and pleased.
It's a big effort. Well, I've seen
It
you're getting a
is.
lot of support, which I love to see. A lot of people are jumping in to spread the word.
Yeah, it's a lot more work than to go and sell a 5-figure program, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah. Are you a little tired? Have you been on the road or what are you
I am
doing?
tired. I was on the road. This year has just been a lot of moving and shaking. And during the first part of the launch, we were hot and heavy. Um, yeah, I said I'm going to do I don't know what I'll call it, a case study, if nothing else, like the case for high ticket. This is an example of why, like, the amount of effort that you expend, it would be way better spent to just go and sell some 5-figure programs than to get people to buy a book that's $23.95.
From
Yeah,
a business and profit perspective, but let's talk
correct.
about why are you doing the book? Why did you think, because you do so well with your business already, you are already impacting thousands and thousands of people. Why the book right now?
Yeah, so the honest answer is because God said so. I'm a God girl. And when I had been praying, Allie, for my mission and my movement for probably 3 years before it really fell into my spirit. And when God said move to millions in 2020, I got excited. And I was like, okay, finally, I can hunker down on something. And then in 2021, he's like, you got to write the book. Now, I've written 7 other books, but I knew the
Oh,
book that I
wow.
was born to write was coming. And this is the book I was born to write. And I wrote this book and published it traditionally because I wanted to be able to get it into as many hands as possible. When you're a self-published author, 250 copies on average is how many you sell, and you don't have global impact. Our book is sold in every English speaking country around the world, and the sales are coming in. This framework and methodology, this premise that you can make 7 figures or more a year and you can do it without hustling or grinding or compromising what's most important to you, is a message that we need for such a time as this. And so it was really
Mm.
important for me to be obedient and to do it, even though it has been quite the effort, just because it is very different than what we normally do.
Yeah, I can just feel it in your voice. I can feel it. Yeah, I get it. And I've shared before on all my shows too. I've been up against the book thing for years, and so just kudos for getting it done, getting it out there. because I know it is such a labor of love and you have to give so much, but it's going to be reaching so many people that you may not
So
have
many more
reached. And
people.
I'm such a big fan too of the printed book format. Like when I travel or I'm at the beach or something, I love still having a printed book. There's still
Me too.
something so I don't know. It I feel like the book gets into me more when I'm holding something printed, when I'm reading something like that.
Plus, you can
Um
underline and you can highlight and you can turn down the edges to go back to it. Like,
yep,
it's just really hard to do that with a Kindle. Like, my eyes wander way too
totally.
much. And so I need that tangible expression in my hand. So I agree with you there.
Yeah, and it stays on your shelf and you see it. You don't just it doesn't disappear into the iBooks. You know, I have like hundreds of iBooks and I don't even remember what I bought. And
Absolutely.
so, you know, something you just mentioned I want to comment on. So you said, really getting to these levels where you're at without you use the word hustle.
Mhm,
When I met you, when people see you, I know you have a power about you. There
mhm.
is something that is it's very strong. It's very you have a really strong aura. And I would have imagined that you've got a lot of hustle. I just would have imagined like you were like making a lot happen. Tell us that balance, maybe how you found that along your journey, that this is something a lot more and deeper than that.
Absolutely. Well, first, let me define what I mean when I say hustle, because I do make things happen, but I don't think that that's hustle. So, hustle for me is pushing a boulder up a hill. It's working hard because you hold the belief that the only way to get anything is if you work hard. And most of us who believe that, we got it honestly because that's what we heard our parents say. You want anything in this world, you got to work hard for it. You want money, you got to
Mhm.
work hard for it. And so, as a country, as a society, for those of us in the United States, we were born and bred to work hard, to effort at a level that is unimaginable in other countries and other cultures, the level of effort that we expend in the United States. And I too, like most people that I encounter, was raised to believe you had to work hard to make money. You had to work hard. Now, on top of many of the other things that everyone in the United States was taught, I am also, for those who will be listening and not seeing, I am also a Black girl. I'm a Black God girl. And so that's a whole nother layer of, if you want anything in this life, you got to be twice as good and work twice as hard as your white counterparts. That's what my dad told me all the time.
Mm.
And so it saddened me. It was who I was. And the first time I got to the $1 million mark, Allie, back in 2014, I did it the hard way. I did it hustling. I did it grinding. I did it to the point where once I got there, I couldn't enjoy it. It it was terrible. I hated it. And I was willing to give it all up because for me, the thought of making that kind of money and not being in position to really be able to experience it, benefit from it, make
Mm.
different choices because of it, because I was so darn tired, was not what I quit my good job for. And so
Mm.
I had to find a way to change what the definition meant and how I looked at myself and how I looked at my work and how I looked at this notion that I had to work hard for money. And what I learned is that hard work, it doesn't make you anything but tired. And that instead you could realize that financial success or any other kind of success does not come through hard work, it comes through alignment. And so I decided to take the inner route as opposed to the outer route in order to redefine success for myself and to create an environment where I could invite others on the journey with me. And so what I know today is that if I can get someone to be and embody what they say, who they say that they want to experience and bring into their life, if I can get them to get in alignment with that, we create ease and
Mm.
flow and we reduce the need for them to have to hustle and effort really, really hard to make it happen. Now, what I want to make sure that I'm clear on is I'm not saying we don't have to work. But what I am saying is that we do not have to work hard. That is a lie that we bought into and believed because it is what was shown to us. But there is a new opportunity and a new definition that we can all take hold of today in order to experience the results that we
Mm.
say that we want.
When you say alignment, What does that mean for you? Maybe you can give some examples.
Sure. So let me be really practical for a second. Running down the center of our bodies are seven chakras. Like, I believe that God is amazing, and he thought of it all in advance, and he created our vessels to literally be a computer to solve any problem that exists within us. Now, in order for us to recognize and live in this, we've got to become aware to it, right? So for me, alignment is ease and flow. I'm going to talk about money for a second, because money is currency. Money has to flow. Well, down the center of our body is our guidepost for alignment. And every single one of us, if we are in tune with our bodies, know when something is off. We may not be able to put voice to it and say, it's my heart chakra or it's my root chakra. Your root chakra governs your ability to understand who you are and to feel grounded. So if you ever feel off kilter or something is wrong, it's probably something going on in your root chakra, that if you would get yourself back to center, you'd start to feel like yourself again. Or if you ever find yourself not being able to speak up for
Mm.
yourself, that's your throat chakra. Your ability to communicate and to advocate for yourself is being compromised because of outside forces inhibiting your body to operate in complete flow. I like to
Mm.
think about another practical example. If you've ever been to a chiropractor, walking through the doors, you probably felt like you were walking upright and you were in alignment and all was well. And then they gave you an adjustment and you realize you were really walking in kind of like this. And so you're brought back to center, which is our natural state of being. So anytime we feel off, whatever that means to you based on your cognition of yourself, it means you are out of alignment. Here's a quick test
Mm.
I always tell people they can give themselves. If you make an I am statement and then you change that I am to God is, source is, universe is, whatever works for you. I'm a God girl, so I say God. And it no longer makes sense, you're out of alignment. Here's an example. I am broke.
Mm.
And then I say, God is broke. How could
That's
God
like,
be
oh.
broke? Right? So that's an indication verbally that I'm out of alignment and there's something I need to do in my own body to get back to the place where I recognize that the statement that I just made is not true. And I stop making what I call casual covenants and speak over myself instead what it is that I desire to bring into my life experience so that my situation actually begins to change.
Mm. When did God become such a part of your life? Were you raised in a faith-filled household? And I'd love you to share also a bit more about your background, because your
Sure.
story is a big part of who you are.
Absolutely. So I was born to drug addicted turned crack addicted parents in the projects of Wilmington, Delaware. My mom was a booster. For Let me break the vernacular down for anyone. A booster is basically a thief. They go into department stores and they steal things and they sell it on the street. So they boost what they bought. I mean what they sold. And so I grew up in this dichotomy of sorts, right? I watched my mom rob Peter to pay Paul, but we were also the best dressed kids in the neighborhood. Who knew? I watched my mom be a slave to her addictions. My mom went to jail when I was 8, and as a result of that, I went to live with my dad and my stepmother. My dad was also an addict. Now, contrary to my mother, my dad was very functional. So he would go to work on Friday and then we'd see him again on Monday after work. From after work on Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, he was binging. He was getting high. He was doing whatever it is he did in the streets, in the drug houses, then eventually crack houses. And because of my aunts and my uncles, we went to church. So my aunt Ida, which was my grandmother's sister on my dad's side, she took her and her husband on. They had their own Baptist church. So I went to church. So I grew up in church, but God didn't get in me until I was in my 20s. So I was engaged to be married the first time. That's a whole nother episode. You'll have to have me back and we can talk about all the engagements and all of the lessons that I have learned.
Oh, we should
Um,
all have a panel.
right, right.
All the
So
trust members.
yeah,
All the-
four fiancés, one husband. And so when I was engaged the very first time, my ex fiance confessed 3 months before our wedding that he had gotten a fellow trustee in our church pregnant. And so it was at that moment that kind of the bottom had fallen out of my life. And I'm like, okay, what am I doing? What is here? And although it happened in the church, I didn't blame the church. But what it did instead is it really sent me head first into wanting to understand who God really was. Because up until that point, I blew the dust off my Bible at church or Bible school if I happened to go. It was not a life thing. It was not about relationship, which I believe in today. But during that period, I studied all religions. And I wanted to study all religions because I just needed a center. I needed to understand. And what I realized that there were principles that, regardless of which religion was practiced, led to a relationship with God. And so for my own life, I made the decision that I was going to focus on the principles and building a relationship versus being held to any religious doctrine or ritual. And it serves me very well. I don't have a heaven or a hell to put anyone in. So I'm not suggesting that anyone adopt my philosophy and how I choose to live my life, but that is what worked for me. Now, of all the religions that I studied, Christianity speaks to me the most. And so I typically say to people, I subscribe to the doctrines of Christianity. What I mean by that is I'm a lover and believer and follower of Christ, but I'm not held to any religious sanction or thing that I must do, because I believe
Mm.
that God is fullness and God is love and light. And his desire for us is that we experience abundance as a part of our birthright. And when you get steeped into religion, especially as, again, a Black girl in a country where her people were not born here, they were brought here, what we were allowed to think and believe from a religious subtext was designed to allow it to be okay for us to be enslaved. And so rather than regurgitate some of that old thinking, I've decided to get to know God myself. And in so doing, I've created this amazing relationship and connection and understanding, as well as the principles that I now teach through my work to help
Mm.
other people be able to establish their own connection and alignment with God, again, universe, or whatever works for you works for me, because I'm not, anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's such a big, I love how you described that too. I relate to that in so many ways, and like how I kind of rediscovered Christianity, and that's kind of where I feel rooted.
Hmm.
And was so helpful to me during some very, very critical times. And
Hmm.
I just love how it's a through line through your work. I love how you make no apologies for it, that it's really the foundation and way for how you help transform, help people, transform themselves, right? And use that.
Absolutely.
So how does this relate to your work now? And how are people transformed through your work? I mean, tell us a bit more about, your teachings, the book,
Hmm.
just everything. I'd love to hear.
Absolutely. So I have always been a God girl. I became a God girl doing business in around 2014, around the time that I crossed the $1 million mark for the very first time. In fact, I believe that my desire to go public, I had been like most people who have a faith center, they keep it to themselves. They believe that we should separate church and state. you know, Damn that Fannie Lou Hamer who messed us all up and said we can't pray in schools. So they separate church and state, and the two never meet. Well, I believe that life, business, everything is congruent, right? I believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. But in 2014, I kind of got the green light, if you will, to allow for my faith to show forth in the same place as my work. And so we
Mm.
started integrating spiritual principles into our coaching and consulting that we do with our clients. And what I have found is that in it, by and large, is the transformation. Now, I say all the time, if it were just strategy, everyone would be making millions. We would not have to talk about the statistics. We wouldn't need places like the trust, because everywhere we turn, there'd be seven-figure people, right? But we both know that that is not, in fact, the truth. What I know is that it's not just strategy, but most businesses, most business coaches, most business consultants, probably 95% of all business books want to give you more strategy. If strategy alone was the catalyst to making millions of dollars, again, we'd all be doing it, but that's not the case. So, what I realize and what makes my work different and my book different is that I give you the strategy, I lay out what it's going to take, but I also talk about the part that most people are afraid to. And that is what I call the softer side of entrepreneurship, which is invariably the harder side of entrepreneurship because it's allowing for something that you cannot readily control to give voice to what it's going to take for you to get to your next level. And so for me, I indoctrinate principles such as alignment, as we've talked about a little bit, forgiveness, surrender, the importance of confidence. I believe that confidence is telling God that He did the right thing in creating you. And I believe that operating
Mm.
under that and allowing that to be your guidepost everywhere you go, which is why, as you said a moment ago, if I enter a space, I disrupt it and I transform it because I hold the confidence that most people wish that they had. And so
Mm.
part of my job is being the light for people to get the courage to see themselves the same way that I have the audacity to see myself. I look at it this way, Allie, like the Bible says in Genesis 1 and 26 that we were created in the image and likeness of God. Can we make that practical? If Allie and Darnyelle were created in God's image and likeness, the scripture goes on to say, and we've been given the power to dominate and to subdue. So dominate means that we take control of everything. Subdue means that everything falls under our command. That's who God created us to be. So when I
Mm.
think about the model of abundance, who must I be? I must be the image and likeness of God because that is how I get to dominate any space I'm in and allow for anything to fall subject to who I be. And I have a
Mm.
right and an obligation and a responsibility to transfer that level of confidence to those that I have the pleasure of being able to work with. So the transformation is allowing our clients to see themselves the way that God has always seen them. And from that place, build their businesses. And that is why our clients grow anywhere from 50 to 200% on average in a year, because that is what we teach them. It's not in a book.
Mm.
Most people
I
aren't
love
talking about it.
you just reframed confidence for me completely. Can you repeat
Awesome.
that part you said first? You confidence is seeing myself and acting the way as I know God
Yeah. I,
made me
I
to
think
be.
being confident is saying, God, thank you so much for creating me. Like, why would we ever create anything and downplay or dismiss it? But as can we just talk about women for a second, right? Your space, the trust, which I love, and the amazing women that are in this space that have defied all the odds and done all the amazing things still struggle with seeing themselves and being confident. I
Mm.
don't get it because I understand who I am, but I also recognize that as women, in a lot of ways, we're still second class citizens. And the way we see ourselves is what has been permissive for our male counterparts, regardless of race, religion, and creed. And we're carrying that baggage while we're doing, like, we have that bag on our shoulder, and we have the bag of success on our shoulder, and we have the bag of our kid. We are bag ladies. And it is
Mhm.
eating away at our confidence. And my role, my job is to be that light that begs to ask the question, who must I be? And when they're looking for an example of what it looks like, they can see my
Mm.
beautiful face looking back at them because I hold the belief that every single woman, every single person, period, but especially women, we are God's most greatest creation. I mean, we can tell the joke. He had to put a man to sleep in order to be able to create us because we are just that valuable in every possible way. And so
Mm.
for me, through our work, that's one of the things that I really want to teach. Like once I get you to shift the way you see yourself, any strategy I give you will produce the result that you intended for it to have. So we have to
Mm.
spend our time doing that inner work in order to experience the outward result.
How would you say your work right now coincides with everything going on in the world, right? It just seems there's more pressure on us. We're carrying more.
Mhm.
There's more coming at us. There's also this spiritual quickening, right? There's a lot
Mhm.
of that this elevation in consciousness, in meeting. We're
Yes.
questioning things that we held true even just years ago and what was important.
Mhm.
There's so much turbulence and shifting. How does the book and your work relate to where a lot of women are right now?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you asked this question because you're right. Like, I feel like an ascension is underway and we are being called higher. We're being called to, as you said, an elevation of self, an elevation of our gifts, an elevation of our work. And so, through the book, Move to Millions, my premise is that your birthright is access to millions. And the way that you get them is through making the move or participating in the ascension. MOVE is an acronym that stands for mastery, operational obedience, vision, and execution. So, first, we've got to master some things. We've got to master the practical, tactical strategy that will allow us to, operate within this business world and to create jobs and to create a living. And we also have to master the spiritual principles that govern our vessel every single day. Operational obedience is about understanding and recognizing the significance of the one role that we all play in business, that is the role of CEO, and also becoming obedient to those softer skill sets that allow us to position surrender to be the most important strategy that we could ever execute inside of our business. Vision for me, especially now because of everything that's going on, is about recognizing the difference between your vantage point where you are right now, where everything is skewed, and your vision point where you're being called to. And then the E stands for execution. All of the mastery, all of the obedience, and all of the vision in the world is nothing if you're unwilling to take an action that brings this into your life experience, that extends your reach, that positions you to expand and serve more people without compromising the things that are most important to you.
Mm. Tell me about the surrender part. That's interesting.
Yeah, so I believe that we can only focus on what we can control. And there are things we can't control. We cannot control the economy, let's make it about business. We cannot control if in a sales conversation the person buys. We can't control that. But what can we can control? We can always control the way that we show up, and we can always control our ability to detach from the outcome. It's important for us to recognize that our clients are not the source of our wealth. They are merely the vessel that is being used to bring us the wealth that has already been earmarked and reserved for us. And so when we
Mm.
take the pressure off of ourselves and even the people we have sales conversations with, we create this amazing environment for connection that actually converts. But we're converting because we're detached from any outcome, i.e., surrendering to what might be possible and just being present, right? Again, who must I be? Be in this moment, fully present and embodying in order to create a safe, significant, and aligned space for the person I'm in conversation with to see themselves and what they want instead through the lens of the solution that I can provide for them to access it now as opposed to later. It's an
Mm.
entirely different way to look at sales, but it's an ability to look at sales through the lens of surrender.
Mhm. Okay. Can I ask you more questions about that?
You sure can.
Yeah. So this is interesting because now I want to, it's also, it's what you teach, but it's how you do business and you do it differently. So a sales call, for example, you said like it's a shift in helping them see things. And so they'll leave with value, it
No
sounds like,
matter
no
what.
matter what, right? Okay. Do you
Yeah,
still ask for the sale? Is there a
I do.
deadline? Like
If
how does it work?
there I ask for the sale if I'm 100% confident that in coming together we could produce what it is that they desire. There's a role we both have to play, but I don't chase money. God is my source, not that person. My mortgage being paid is not contingent upon them saying yes. So I don't have to take that desperate sales energy into the conversation. Instead,
Mm.
I can just show up and be fully present because the fact that they gave me their time is an indication that they see me as a solution, right? I always say the invitation is your validation. If you invite somebody somewhere and they show up, it's validation that they see you as a possible solution. So I don't
Mm.
have to try and be out of my character to get you to do something that isn't going to serve you and me. And I'm into partnership these days. And so I'm looking for people I can partner with. I am a guide. I am not the conduit. And so if I hold the space that I'm a guide and the person is the conduit, the work is going to come through them, then we can create some magic together. But
Mm.
if I
Oh,
am poking and prodding and convincing, then we're not going to do what we said. And even if they say yes in that moment, it's going to turn into a default because
yeah.
I wasn't focused on highest and best good. And so that is also surrender, right? So if I enter a conversation fully present, and fully interested in learning. I'm not like just listening for the punchline, like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you want to buy it or not? Like
Pain point,
I'm
pain point.
literally
Yep.
right, exactly. I'm in conversation. And when it makes sense, I introduce this as the solution. But if it doesn't, I say that. Like I start a conversation this way. In just a minute, I'm going to have you share just a little bit more with me about yourself. We're going to have a conversation. And I'm going to be honest, vulnerable, and transparent with you. I'm going to listen to what you tell me you have experienced and what's going on right now. And only if I'm 100% confident that I can help you get to what it is that you desire instead, will I offer you the opportunity to hire me. And either way, as I listen to what you're sharing and reflect back to you what I heard, we're going to create an environment for you to see value in this exchange, no matter what. So with that
Mm.
being said, would you like to proceed? So I get partnership from the start, right? And I take the pressure off. Like they're gonna
Yeah, I
have to
bet
say
they
yes to
exhale a bit.
themselves.
They're like, "Oh, okay." They don't have to
Right.
have their guard up on the call.
Absolutely. And they're
I
saying
like
yes to
that.
themselves, not yes to me. They're saying yes to themselves through my ability to hold space for them to get what it is that they want. And I'm very clear on that. And I literally say this every conversation, Allie. Like at the end, I'm like, listen, we've had an amazing conversation. I've shared with you how I'm 100% confident that I can help you. And, we've decided that you're going to take a moment and you're going to think about it. And here's what I want you to know. If you decide that now is not the time or I'm not the person, you don't have to dodge me. And you don't like, because here's what I don't convince. I will never convince anyone to let me change their life. And let's be clear, if we come into connection and we work together, I will change your life. And I am already a multiple $1 million CEO and millionaire. So I already hold what it is that you desire. So this is an opportunity for you to evaluate if you are ready to do what is required for you to be able to say the same.
Mm.
I'm not convincing you because if you convince them, then you're going to have to drag them. And I don't have
Yeah.
time for that. I have too many lives to transform to sit in a space where I have to convince. And so instead, by treating them like a human being, a CEO, giving them permission to say yes to themselves and space to say no if the answer is no, without any fear of backlash, I actually create an empowered environment.
Yeah.
And the
I
answer
like that
is
too because
often yes.
I like it sets the tone also for what it's gonna be like. It's a congruent experience from the
Absolutely.
moment they talk to you and come into your program, and that sets the tone for that partnership. And a lot of you listening right now who are coaches or watching, I think this is something to rewind and listen to how Darnyelle had that conversation, because a trap that a lot of coaches get into is attracting these clients who want to abdicate responsibility in the relationship. Those are the ones that cause trouble, that they're like, I didn't get what I needed here. You
Yeah,
set the tone from your first word. Here's how this
absolutely.
is. It was a beautiful mix of like this incredible confidence and this like beautiful detachment.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing that. I was like, oh, I hope she'll go
Absolutely.
through it and share that. I always like getting one like meaty, really meaty thing there. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's a whole new way of doing things that everyone's so sick of these old ways. Everyone is just done with these outdated methods, and not just because they don't work, but they never felt right. They didn't attract the right clients. And so I think
Yeah,
just that nugget, I just want to emphasize to everyone listening or watching, go back and listen to that again. I think it's something, no matter what type of business you're in, you could learn from what Darnyelle just shared.
absolutely. And here's the other
Where
thing
can
that I
Oh, sure. Yeah,
just
tack
really
on,
quick
tack
before you
on.
ask me that question that I think is important to state. is the marketplace that we exist in today is different. The consumer is far more skeptical. They've been burnt. They've given their good money to the person who was snake oil that was the loudest, not necessarily the best, but marketing the
Yes.
most. And now they have to be much more discerning with the dollars they have to invest in order to get the support that they need. And so you bringing your confidence to the conversation is going to allow for a beautiful exchange, because often you are probably going to be the largest investment they've ever made and all of these other conditions, and they are going to have to borrow your confidence to say yes to themselves through you. And it will be impossible if you don't sit in the seat of confidence, if you don't believe, like you know your name, that you are the best thing since pockets, you are the only and obvious choice for them to get to their next level. If you don't come into the conversation with that energy, you're probably not going to close them. And if you do, they're going to be a problem client, because that's how you get that they bring the desperation energy. They match your energy. And so if you're desperate to get the sale, they're desperate to get the solution. And the two of you coming together is just going to be pandemonium. It's not going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah. So Darnyelle, where should everyone go to? Let's talk about all things Darnyelle. So the book, your courses, programs, what's going on with you, and where can people learn more?
Yeah, the best place to go is movetomillions.com. And from there, it's like a landing page. So from there, you can click around to wherever you might want to go. If you want to get a copy of the book, which I highly recommend, if you want to, learn about our live events, if you want to learn about our courses and programs, everything is right there from movetomillions.com.
Easy. I love it. You don't give 10 different URLs and different things. Thank you.
And you don't
See?
have to try to
Well
figure out how to
thought.
spell my name.
Yes. Yes. So move to millions. Easy. Perfect. And then
Absolutely.
what is the reward for you in all
Yeah.
of this?
I think about the Irma Bombeck quote, which says, "When I stand before God at the end of my life, I hope to not have a single bit of talent left, saying I used everything he gave me.
Mm,
I am a full vessel, and I know how to fill myself up in order to be in service to others. My intention, my reward will be in emptying out my fullness into the lives of others, that they might experience fullness as well." And so the reward for me is being in proximity to women who are shaking the planet and being a big part of that ripple effect that is reverberating throughout the earth.
mm. I love that. Darnyelle, just thank you for just being all that you are. And it's been just so wonderful to have you in the trust and have your incredible energy in the room. And like sometimes I'm like, I need some of that Darnyelle energy. Can you
Well, call me.
send it over?
Anytime you need me, Allie, you just give me a call.
I love it. We love having you with us. And just, I think all of you listening and watching too, you get a sense from these interviews, just the incredible breadth and depth of these women and the work that they do from all different industries and all different backgrounds. And Darnyelle, you've added so much to our mix, and just thank you for all you do and who you are. And again, it's movetomillions.com, correct?
Yep. Movetomillions.com.
Easy peasy. All right. Thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Subscribe now to the Reward Podcast to be sure to not miss an episode. And don't forget to visit jointhetrust.org to learn more about our modern community for forward-thinking 7- and 8-figure women entrepreneurs. You can learn more, apply to join us, or refer another woman you know who is over the $1 million mark and is ready for a different type of women's network. We have events coming up both live and online that are truly creating new possibilities for female leaders. That's jointhetrust.org. See you there.